Still looking to earn your invite for the free Players Championship? Visit ppgeventmanagement.com to learn about the different qualifiers available. From one-day events to play-on-your-own-schedule events, all events offer a buyback or cash option along with a 100% credit option redeemable towards any future pre-order at competitive prices. Grinding and getting paid to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Has never been easier. Play with the most professional worldwide tournament series today and join the online community. Come join us on Discord for assistance, info, and even discussions about future events.
Fortunate, as they are known for their impressive combo mastery. They're on Altergeist. People may have forgotten, but Necros and Ritual Beast aren't the only decks that got cards unbanned. 3 Multi-Faker, now a staple in Altergeist lists nationwide. I was literally recording with Sir Emanon under 12 hours ago, so I hope that they are well rested. Gally W is playing, I don't know, like, how would you describe this? Like, Lost Turbo, 60 card pile.
60 card good world legacy stuff.
It's a Machina, Orchist, Gearsu, or Generator deck. So the core of this deck is of course Gearsu, the Orchist Mech Knight, which turns on both halves of the engine. They are playing all the cards necessary to facilitate the generator half of the deck, ending on a true King of All Calamities if they are allowed to do so with a generator stage. But they have the option, if they're faced up against a couple of back row spells and traps, to pivot into the Orchist lines, with which they can facilitate using the extremely powerful Machina redeployment, as well as Gearsu's unbelievably powerful typing. Looks like here we are going for Nightmare Phoenix to bait out some of this back row before going into Orcus Nightmare activations in Graveyard. Let's see what Sir Emanon does.
Infinite Impermanence, I mean, that's probably the card you don't want to hit off the Nightmare Phoenix half the time, but still being able to force a form of interaction is always good. And we're going to see them follow that up with the Orcus Nightmare, which will now lock them into specifically dark monsters for the remainder of the turn. And I suppose that means out of all of the 17 engines you just listed, means they are going to be locked into doing mostly Orcus plays from here on out, which is still quite powerful considering that we are just seeing a lot of back row. Now, again, we have the list pulled up, so I'll go ahead and spoil it for you, chat. It is Altergeist from Sir Emanon. We haven't already divulged information. And now that we've seen an Infinite Impermanence fired and we don't see a Altergeist Multi-Faker, we are seeing one of the main issues with Altergeist in general, and that is its fairly lackluster consistency. As I've now talked my device.
That is a heck of a card. And this is what I expected. You know, if you're not going through the entire generator combo with Gearsu, it's probably because you already have a stage in hand. I like this because on the play, Orcus setups actually aren't very powerful. They just end on very sticky monsters. You can go through Gearsu to set up a stage with a Har negation backed up by True King of All Calamities. And on the draw, you can just chew through back row with Orcus cards. They are adept at doing it. If your opponent exhausts all of their resources and you fire a stage in your end phase, you've got negates for their next turn. I mean, seems pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen the generator almost as an engine popping up in a handful of different decks just to sort of supplement a lot of the weaker board states that some decks can set up, similar to Orcus, but we've also seen it even in the Dolce strategy as well, occasionally due to Dolce Butler Rusk being able to search it out.
Butler Rusk part of that combo is the stupidest thing ever. They were like, yes, you can Butler Rusk into Secret Village of the Spellcasters to shut your opponent off of spells. Or you can play 8 bricks to do Generator Boss Stage. It turns out that was actually the better version. Ash Blossom being met with a Psy Frame Gear Gamma, and unfortunately for Sir Emanon, 2 tokens is all that Har needs.
Yeah, this is a tough situation. Even in the scenario that Har hits the board in 4 tokens, which would all be sitting at specifically 1,500 defense points, this is still very difficult for Altergeist to deal with. Now, they do have tools to chew through the board, but Har giving them the deck a negation means that probably the most powerful board breaker, that one right there, Altergeist Meloseek, is really not going to cut it here.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating for even. I'm like, you can use Meluseek's effect to deal 500 damage. Oh, the infib coming down.
Even worse.
And then target the Har. The Har can negate it. Then when you add with the Meluseek, you can use Har's effect to send from the hand, but you can't because it activates in damage step. It's okay for Sir Eminon. Of course, that all depends on not getting infibbed.
It's about the worst case scenario here. Now, fortunately, as they will pass turn, you do still have access to going into Link Karibo, and pretty much every card on Galley W's board, except for the Har and the boss stage, are going to leave in the end.
Yeah, Har is not going to be able to negate on the following turn, but if you put the impetus on your opponent to do anything, you're probably fine. You know that Galley W is not only on Har, it looks like they also have a Nidhogg in here. Is that the only two? No, and an Utgarda. Okay, so they are pretty deep on generators.
It's incredible that they've managed to find just everything they needed in a 60-card deck, especially considering Girsu, which is a card that eludes me, even in a 40-card deck that has 6 searchers for it.
I do like that this deck basically has, I would imagine, very few dead hands. Wow, Monstrosity while you have the 9 on field. Okay, I take back everything I said. This person has made a contract with the devil.
Similar to all of the Grand Majudaiza players around the world and invoked players that are able to just find exactly what they need all the time to answer your board. We are seeing that right now with the World Legacy Monstrosity.
Oh my god, you can get Metal Cruncher with Monstrosity. Okay, whole deck makes sense to me now. I've now mastered this deck. Oh my god, that's so strong. It doesn't. Does it negate their effects? It doesn't.
No.
Oh my gosh. You can use Metal Cruncher to get a copy of Scrap Recycler if we so desire. Are they on Scrap Recycler even? They are. So we will be able to perform that normal summon, use the effect of Mardell to go into additional generator cards. All right, so this is the play. You want to use Dingirsu to get World Legacy Monstrosity, and instead of summoning Mardell plus a random generator that will form material for Jormungandr, you summon Metal Cruncher and use it to get a copy of Scrap Recycler.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine there's a much better play here, considering you are on Orchest and so many other engines, because that I can't even recall. But this play in and of itself, as we're seeing Mardell and Metal Cruncher, both which are going to be able to get their effects. This is just a dominating position for
this deck is dope.
LAW.
This deck is dope. So cool.
Yeah.
And Calamity's time.
It's so cool to see decks like this that, it really, what do you call this? It really is just kind of good World Legacy cards deck, really. Revealing a Machina Fortress. As I am...
I would almost call it Monstrosity Turbo.
There you go, yeah.
Monstrosity Toolbox, there you go.
Yeah, that's probably the least taxing on the mouth to call it that.
All right, sending a World Legacy World Wand to the graveyard. This turns on the Ebe, if we so desire to make it later in the turn.
Yeah, the whole world is pretty much at their fingertips right now, and the Calamities alone is probably plenty to shut them down here.
Provided we call Dark after going through a sufficient number of plays, we should be able to just win the game from this position. Looking at the grave real quick, do they have anything else to summon? Looks like we are going to have to link the Har away with the Symbol Skeleton, not too beat up about it. Oh my god, we're Tribute summoning. Oh, okay.
A darn shame that my dueling book has decided to stop working. But
okay, so we've Tribute summoned a copy of Metal Cruncher, and then normal summoned a copy of Girsu.
Wow.
It's
better than that.
It's extremely powerful. For some reason, Girsu triggers not only on normal summon, but also on special summon. So from here, we can send an Orchestra World Legacy from the deck to the graveyard. I don't think we have yet activated the effect of Nightmare. Ooh, what is this Gizmek? What is that being sent off of? I was going to say, I don't think that's necessarily an Orchestra card. You've been spoiled by your card with 4 different tribes in its title.
And as much as we want to even fawn over this deck as we see it, with good reason, you can. But as we're seeing it sort of pop off here, you just have to think about, as we try to, if we even will go back to our Orcus player, or no, sorry, our Altergeist player, what are you even going to do here? Even with that Meloseek still sitting up on the board, it's just so dire right now.
A world armor to the graveyard. I mean, here we go. We are locked into dark for the remainder of the turn, but no big deal. The deal with Altergeist is, as soon as Altergeist receives any unhits, the entire Reddit and Facebook community always clamors to call it best deck, but I think what you're seeing here is why it hasn't ever been. You know, it's a known quantity. It sucks at breaking established boards. If you know exactly what control traps your opponent is going to be playing, it's very easy to play around them. You can assemble boards like this that are sticky and resist the types of interaction Altergeist very specifically has. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, we even saw it last turn. There was just Har on board. That was all it needed. It was just a Har threatening a negation. That was enough. Now, of course, Altergeist Protocol, very powerful card with some excellent text on it that can prevent the Altergeist from being negated, but it really shows that Altergeist is really heavily reliant on having their exact setup. And now, when it does get ahead and it gets rolling, it is probably one of the strongest decks in the game, if not the strongest, but getting to that point, especially in a meta like this that can be quite hostile to these sort of decks that require time and especially require your opponent to do specific actions, assuming you're on cards like Solemn Strike and so on and so forth, and drawing the right amount of cards, there's just so much that can go wrong, man.
Oh, this sucks. Looks like this is interesting. So it looks like what's happened is this True King of All Calamities called Water. Personnel Spoofing was activated to shuffle back this copy of Meluseek and get a Multifaker. Since Multifaker is dark in the hand, it can be special summoned at resolution, but because it's water on field, it can't activate the second half of its effect, and unfortunately blocking is the best it's going to be able to do.
That's a huge commitment to that particular play as well. The Meluseek, I mean, it wasn't going to get its effect anyway by calling water, but you're really, I feel like you were better off holding the spoofing. Now, of course, I believe they haven't used Ingirsu yet, so that might not have really made much of a difference. But you might have been better off holding the spoofing and hoping that you could get through a play here.
Oh, we know that the set card is the Orcus counter trap, so we've got a negation, a True King on board, a banish available. I mean, I think it's time to go next, Sir Eminon.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know. You're really just giving away information. Now, like you said, the deck is so known that probably isn't really relevant. But
what happens if you counter trap this? That's just the end of the game, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you really don't need about anything here. The whole staring down Calamities is bad enough, and they're completely out of cards. Their back row has been chewed through, and they don't have
actually shown
through. Yeah, I struggled with that. I was a business major, but
it's okay. I've never read a sentence in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot that Hidden City could negate attacks. So who am I? But yeah, game 2. Hope you go first. Hope you see a better opener. Hope you see Marionetter and Spoofing and 4 other cards that say no.
And not for nothing, Eminon did go first this game. This wasn't like Eminon had to contend with True King of All Calamities from the outset. This was the best Eminon's deck could manage. Tucking back that copy of Marionetter in response to the activation of Utgarda, gonna get themselves a copy of what appears to be Protocol. They've got a Multifaker in hand, which is cool. They're gonna flip the Protocol, but like, what happens when in response True King is chained calling dark, or they activate the counter trap? There's just nothing you can do.
Yeah, this is one of those fun scenarios where, yes, Protocol can negate your effects, can negate the activation of your effects, or the activation effects cannot be negated, if I get the words out right. But Calamity says you just cannot activate them, so that's a completely different ball game you're playing there, and that is still going to completely shut down a Multifaker, even if the Protocol is flip face up here. And we're seeing a Scrap Recycler follow up, and it can't get any worse here. And At this point, you're really just burning time on the clock. Your win condition in Altergeist is already not super fast. I mean, it can take games pretty quickly, depending on how hard it can snowball, but you're about 20 minutes into this round, and you really could have scooped it up in this game that you know you've lost and saved yourself a whole lot of time.
All right, hear me out. I actually think it's right to stay in this game.
Okay.
We've got, what, like 20 minutes remaining on the clock. That's about how long it will take to win Game 2. If you can go into Game 3 either in time or with under 5 minutes on the clock, and your back row is a bunch of negation that doesn't require you to pay life, a Melusik hit will win you the game. And it will be very hard for your opponent to stop it. They can prevent the activation of your monster's effects, but normal summoning a monster and attacking doesn't activate an effect.
Yeah, man, I love to think we live in that world, but the thing is even your most powerful trap cards are usually things like Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike. Now, assuming if they do have access to copies of things like Torrential Tribute, we do know they have Compulse, so those are very powerful pieces of interaction that might be able to stall out a game for a turn to get in a Melusik, but that is some... I mean, you're probably better off buying a lottery ticket than finding a way to get to specifically that win condition and having it go through. But you are right, that is, without a doubt, a legitimate win con that they can try and plan for way down the road here.
To consideration, here comes the protocol. As expected, here comes the crescendo, and here comes the concession out of Sir Emanon.
Yep.
All right, interested to see what happens in Game 2, but I'd imagine it starts with Emanon going first.
A fair bet. Like I said, you might be better off buying a lottery ticket, but you apparently have taken the safe bet there with that guess. Now, again, hopefully we can find a way to open better than just set free pass with nothing. We know that, in particular, this Altergeist deck does play the Haunted Rock combo to try and potentially...
Oh, God.
I mean, here's the thing. We even saw in Game 1, consistency is already a big issue for Altergeist, and you're introducing a combo that requires you to open specifically Marionette or Multifaker. Powerful as it is.
I hate to be like this, but you explain the Haunted Rock combo to me?
Yes, so I am fairly new to it myself, but from my understanding is you Marionetter to set the Haunted Rock. Haunted Rock has text that says you can activate it the turn it is set. You activate it, you have to discard an Altergeist monster. Now what it actually does is it negates traps, so it's a bad card. But what you can do is discard a Multifaker or a Melusik, and then you can use the Marionetter tributing off the Haunted Rock to summon back the better card, link away into Hexia, link that down into Linkross, and that can get you a search off Melusik into Multifaker, or you can link the Hexia down to get you a copy of Protocol, and so on and so forth. Here's the thing, if you open Marionette or Multifaker, you can just set the Protocol. But it can set you up for some plays down the road as well, and it can set you up for potentially multiple Hexias. But it's
that's pretty interesting.
It's good, but man,
it's very specifically interaction between Linkross and Hexia that enables this, right?
Yes, that's why a lot of people are looking forward to. A lot of people are alluding to the fact that the unlimit of Altergeist Multifaker means we're probably going to get Altergeist Puquiri, and that card pretty much replaces that whole combo. You just got to open Puquiri, Marionette, or Melusik. Puquiri does the same exact thing. But get to Game 2 here. We do have our, our monstrosity deck, our World Legacy Turbo, up 1-0, and Altergeist starting with a much better hand, which is open Melusik and link it away.
Yeah, so this opener sucks. Getting Melusik for Multifaker is fine. You've got 3 Multifaker, though, so it's not that big of an issue that you've drawn it now. You set 2 and pass, not super strong, and your opponent leads with a Twin Twister. I mean, good luck this game. All right,
yeah.
This is the problem, is Altergeist players have been so accustomed to playing with one Multifaker that now they've got Melusik, they've got personal spoofing, they've got too many ways to find the card, and not enough ways to flex into the additional plays that were occasionally giving a game previously. Looks like an activation of spoofing without the effect. Oh, that's sad.
I mean, no reason to do just...
Oh!
Wow.
The Ghost Ogre coming down on the Multi-Faker, usually quite bad against this card, but it means it's going to make this Silquidius really, really bad. It has to return an Altergeist card from your side of the field and a card from your opponent's side of the field, going to force the issue and get a Meluseek instead, and now a Scrap Recycler normal summon is functionally the end of the game, provided that Sir Eminon doesn't have exactly Ash Blossom.
Or Nibiru, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to have to be both. We discarded a copy of Nightmare for a Twin Twister, so despite the fact that the Scrap Recycler was negated, we can still do the entire Scrap combo.
Yeah, and I mean, that's plenty. And, you know, it's unfortunate that so far the games we've seen have more or less just been an expose on why the decks that have benefited from the ban list, either the actual Konami ban list or the one we're using today, why it's not too big of a deal. For instance, we've seen Ritual Beast got blown out, Necros got blown out by decks that are more firmly in the meta. Now we see Altergeist. Now, I still think Altergeist is a good deck. I still think it's very powerful and will find itself represented a lot at top tables for some time to come. But we've seen the exact weaknesses it has between consistency, between its heavy reliance on your opponent not having back row removal in this scenario, and it breaks my heart to see. I actually am a big Altergeist stealer.
I really don't have anything to add to that. It's just a very frustrating turn of events. And I think one of the most frustrating things to hear post-ban list was that, yes, the two top decks, Adamancipator and Eldritch, were format-destroying super threats, but you have no guarantee that those cards, or that those decks won't be kept in check by the newly unlimited Altergeist Multi-Faker, or Necros, or Ritual Beast. It's like, no, if you've played with any of these decks for any amount of time, you know what's going to happen when these cards get unlimited. They're going to be a slightly more consistent version of a deck that just doesn't have game against Tier 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And, man, it is just incredible how consistent we've seen this 60-card deck both games.
Here's draw stage and draw phase. Wow, that's strong.
I was wondering, too, I was going to ask, because I know you had the list earlier, was if they had a copy of Babel even in the deck. And I still wonder, because the draw stage is, generally speaking, better. But
they do have a copy of Babel. I mean, under certain scenarios, of course, you'd want Babel.
For sure, yeah. I mean, this deck is incredible in the sense that it has so many different ways to win the game. If Plan A doesn't work, you can rely on Plan B in your generators. If that doesn't work, you can kind of try to track back to Plan C, which is every other World Legacy card that is featured. Good play here to dodge the Utgarda using Linkuriboh and get yourself a search with the Meluseek. I'm assuming that is what we saw there. Yes.
Declare spamming on your Dueling Book screen as well?
Dueling Book has been having some trouble. I've unfortunately been disconnected from this game multiple times, but
I hope this is a spectator that affects everybody, but the declare button, the Linkuriboh, has been flashing for about 5 minutes, and I think at this point it's just a force from Sir Eminon.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dueling Book, far from perfect, but
isn't really designed to host literally every Yu-Gi-Oh event. But,
yeah. It is certainly not designed to host a 400 basically a regional, like an actual regional.
Yeah, just a straight up same size regional as like Brooklyn or Philly. Just fantastic.
Yeah, these, I mean, for me, I'm so used to every regional I go to in the Chicago area is usually where I find most of my regionals, and Indianapolis and so on and so forth. Those usually 400 plus 500 in the absolute worst case scenarios. And I say worst case because, man, those take a long time.
Sounds like if I just want like free invites, I just go to a regional you're going to be at, right?
Well, no, because I won't be at the top tables. But
oh, okay. Well, neither will I.
Oh, well,
like
I mean, catch me at Winamats. I farm Winamats.
The Winamats are where the true game of Yu-Gi-Oh is played. Do not at me.
Yeah.
The Crescendo meeting the Meluseek unfortunately means that there's not going to be an ad, nor will that Meluseek connect and destroy anything. We're going to lose those tokens, but this is still likely the end of the game.
I don't see a way back in it. You'd have to have specifically torrential multi-faker, and even then you're still having to deal with they didn't go for Har, they decided to go for Ugarda to help answer the Meloseek, so you still have to answer Har as well during your turn, and 4 tokens, which not a huge deal, as the tokens do of course remove themselves, but I mean that's still the defensive capabilities that brings you are significant.
People talk about Har as the most powerful generator and the thing that breathed new life into the deck, and to a certain degree that's true. I'd argue that the card that has made the deck the most playable is something like Girsu, but they neglect to remember that Utgard is insane. Like, decks right now really just aren't equipped to deal with like targeted banishing on a big body. Looks like the protocol is coming down. Do we have another multi-faker in hand?
It would have to be specifically, well, I suppose there's a multi-faker. There it is.
There it is. Okay. I mean, that is what you need. And unfortunately, something like an Ash Blossom won't do a whole lot with a protocol on field. All right. I guess we can get a Silquidius here. This is Eminon's way back into the game.
This is interesting now. They do have access. They could... they do go for Sokatas, but... No, they don't have access to Meloseek. Otherwise, they could have summoned Meloseek, linked away into Hexia, found a Marionetter off of the Meloseek, and then continued trying to break the board that way. Could have then set a Manifestation, then used the Marionetter to get back a Meloseek to try and get rid of the Utgarda.
Well, important to realize
this is on blue player's turn. They have no chance.
This is LEW's turn, yeah.
Absolutely no chance. I just wanted it so bad to have a chance.
Do they? If this protocol is used correctly to prevent the activation of something like a Symbol Skeleton or a Dingirsu, it could very easily turn into a crusty scenario for the Monstrosity player if their hand is just full of conditional extenders.
Yeah, that's the problem you do run into sometimes with these 60-card decks that are sort of a mishmash of a bunch of different engines. Is sometimes it'll get rolling, but then if the game state starts to simplify, the wheels will fall off a bit, and you'll start to run into a lot of your conditional cards that can't be used. However,
this time, unsurprisingly, coming down on the Dingirsu. I think the Dingirsu effect is going to resolve. If that hits the protocol, we can just start making Orcust cards with the Skeleton and Graveyard.
Yeah, they've set themselves up nicely to continue their play through pretty much the worst-case scenario that was presented to them with the current board state.
I almost like switching Utgarda to attack position here. The Linkuriboh does complicate things, but not too much. Right, looks like we are going for the Skeleton here. It's going to be met with the Protocol. And, I mean, suddenly you're stuck with a multi-faker in hand and not a lot else.
Or was the Dingirsu sending the Sokatas and the Simple Skeleton?
I think that is probably what happened, yeah.
Here, yeah. Which, probably the correct play. I mean, at this point, even if you do find a trap card, or even if you go back to player in red's turn, they can't activate a trap card, so they won't be able to get this multi-faker out of their hand. Now, this could be a crazy scenario where the Haunted Rock could come up.
Does Crescendo interact with Girsu this way? Why are you allowed to search Girsu with Crescendo? Far too strong of a card.
Girsu, in my opinion, probably in terms of pure power and how many different decks become viable because of it, easily the best card released in Eternity Code. Now, obviously, Access Code Talker is finding itself in decks, but the
Link Cross is okay.
I hear that too, but I don't know. Girsu, the amount of decks that this card has enabled is just mind-boggling.
It's not like Link Cross was making bad decks good. It was making good decks better.
It was, in fact, a problem just like that. And at this point, you are locked into Dark Machines, but I don't think you're complaining about that too much in this particular scenario. You have already used Dingirsu, but you can set yourself up nicely to follow up for your next turn, and you still have Boss Stage, which can still get hard, it can still get you in the gate, or you can use Utgarda. You kind of get a little bit of flexibility there on exactly which effect you want for, and you know every single card that's available.
The worst case scenario here is you just switch your monsters to attack position and go into maybe a long Girsu in main phase 2. Then you have access to both Har and Utgarda on your opponent's turn. You know one of their cards is dead in the water. They have to activate a trap if they want to get into this game, and it's almost impossible to do so while you have a Negator on field. I mean, does seem like lights out, even if it's taking a little bit of time to get there.
Decided to go for the battle. Deciding to go fully in on the Orcust win condition here, which can't blame them. I feel like Dingirsu at this point, if they do have a symbol skeleton still loaded, there you go. More than the scenario.
We've used the symbol skeleton effect already, so we are just going for damage right here.
Yeah.
But a Dingirsu live in the graveyard is probably still enough to win the game.
Absolutely. Now, when I think about it, about your only chance, ironically, might be that Altergeist Haunted Rock, and even then, you still have to deal with Dingirsu. Actually, they didn't wind up blinking away.
Weird path, but okay.
I forgot with the Sokatatsu, but that'll do it.
Looks like Ceremanon has admitted defeat, and wow, this monstrosity turbo deck goes undefeated after 3 rounds.
Hey everyone! If you're enjoying the coverage of the Pro Play Tour online series, just remember, you can play in one yourself. Every Thursday you can enter our free weekly 64-player tournament with invites to the entire Top Cut. Every Saturday is our weekend championship, where you can enter a YCS-type event with 100% payout and even a cash payout option. The more players, the bigger the prizes. Can't commit time to play in our one-day events? We also host multiple 8-man pods daily, ready to fire on demand on your own schedule. All these events award invites to our free invite-only Players Championship with prizes supplied by our sponsors. For more information, visit ppgeventmanagement.com and come play with the pros.